absolutely awful. I'm taking a picture of the tablet. The camera on this is dog shit.
Folks, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the fourth special meeting of the 169th session of the Queen's University of Belfast Literary and Scientific Society. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon to the Parliament buildings of Northern Ireland, Stormont. Special thanks to Mr. Chris Little, MLA, for sponsoring our trip in here. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it here today. He was due to give us an opening address, but sadly, personal matters arose and he has been unable to attend. But nevertheless, I'm very glad that we were able to return here. The Literary Stormont Mixer event was an annual event for a good couple of years, and then we missed a year or two, but now we're back, so hooray! Good things to happen. The motion this afternoon is this House believes Western politics is inherently sexist. We are scheduled to be in this room from 2 until 4. Obviously we can leave before that, but we do most definitely need to be finished before then. So in the interest of time, I believe, Mr. Secretary, that you wish to save the minutes of the third ordinary meeting for tomorrow.
Indeed.
So we shall be skipping those for now. We shall be taking private members' business, but we shall be keeping it short. So does anybody have any private members' business that they'd like to put to the floor? Miss Claire Campbell?
I would like to put members of the House what they think of having a transnational European constituency for the European elections.
Okay, Miss Campbell. Very well then. Does anybody have any thoughts on the matter? Miss Belbas?
I don't really see how you can do that, because in order for you to be able to vote in every single election in Europe, you would have to understand the politics of every single country in Europe.
It's doable.
No. No.
Mr. Goblin?
I think personally that sounds like an absolutely terrible idea. The EU was founded upon the principle that we respect the sovereignty of individual member states. As we said, at least 90% of EU citizens are going to be completely unaware of the political, economic and social situations in other EU member states. And the idea that we should have an idea of say or a place in their representation is utterly ludicrous.
Thank you, Mr. Goblin. Patrick McKenna, is it?
Yes.
Mr. McKenna.
Yes, I support this idea because I completely condemn the idea that a sovereign defined state can represent the variation of different peoples across a geographic area. And I think that a way forward for the EU, as opposed to supporting sovereign states, could be to embrace different cultural regions. I think that could be a way forward.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Mr. O'Neill.
I think what the EU is doing is actually really dangerous. They're essentially trying to centralise all of the governments into one country. They now have a national army, stuff like that. There's talks of expanding that. I think it's really dangerous because these guys are effectively monopolising power for the whole of Europe, and there's only a couple of unelected people who are going to exercise that.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Any Mr. Clark?
I remembered I wanted to say something, but I forget now. That's it.
Fair enough. Any final points then? Anyone? Girls?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Hey, Mr. Clark.
Alright. There's more reaction to what your man said. So the idea of a nation is that it is a culturally unified thing. That's the whole concept of self-determination. So ideally, each nation, each sovereign nation, would be a union of a culture. It doesn't quite work like that.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And I believe we'll finish on that for now. Does anybody have any other items of private members' business? Mr. Dahl?
Well, I think this is an important thing to raise since we are in the Parliament buildings today. And the announcement this morning made by James Brokenshire that he will propose a budget and that they have very little time left to make a deal was until November 8th. I don't know, BBC Radio Ulster. And if the members of this House believe that a power sharing arrangement can be salvaged at this point, and whether or not we could accept the fact that our admittedly inept Secretary of State could draft the budget for the NI Assembly.
Mr. Donovan, I would like to point out that at some point I would like to try and get our admittedly inept Secretary of State to speak in the society. So please refrain from saying something.
Do you want me to
Withdraw.
Does anybody? Nah, leave it in. We don't care that much.
That's not the first time he's been slandered in our recordings, trust me.
It's not slander.
Does anybody have any thoughts on Mr. Donovan's piece of business there? Mr. Doherty.
In terms of power sharing, if it's not going to work, the English government's got our hands full right now, so if you would please get on with getting power share back together so we can sort out our own problems with a lack of a Tory majority, please, if possible.
It's the British government, not the English.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty.
I think it's absolutely vital that we do get our devolved institutions back up. To have direct rule and direct rule of Conservative DUP direct rule government influencing Northern Ireland is completely unthinkable. I think there is hope. Bill Clinton is obviously over. Hopefully the Americans can shed some light. I'm not too confident on that. I think good steps are being made, worked towards, and I think if we do actually cut the MLA's salaries, which there is talk of, it might give them a kick in the arse to actually get back to work.
Thanks, Martin. Good sir, I forget your surname.
Alden. Yes, I think it's vital that we get power sharing back, but I don't think, in my humble opinion, that it's going to happen without another election, because both the DUP and Sinn Féin know that it's in their best interest to hold out until they can grab more of what's left of the power in this island.
Fantastic point. Ms. Campbell.
I would just like to criticise the points that the MLA's salary should be cut to give them a kick to get on with it. MLAs do very important constituency work, which is really vital considering we don't have a government right now. If they weren't able to do that, they wouldn't be able to pay their constituency office and they would have to be shut. And it would be the detriment to Northern Ireland as a whole if their salary was cut.
And I give them the...
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Doherty, could you see if you can close those doors?
Yeah.
Thanks. Mr. Clark.
Constituency offices are expensive.
Constituency offices are expenses, and if they're only doing constituency work, give them the constituency assistance wage or the parliamentary assistance wage. There is absolutely no point in giving them 45, 50 grand a year to sit in an office where their constituency assistant is only getting 15 grand a year.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gallen, yes?
Yes. While the NI Assembly might be non-existent at the minute, they are elected and represent the Northern Irish people, and I think it's ridiculous that someone who's not elected by us, the Secretary of State, would get to decide the budget for our province.
Yes, Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, this might be a bit taboo because it doesn't really get mentioned much, but considering that the successive British and Northern Irish devolved governments have failed to administer issues in Northern Ireland, could we not possibly try a Dublin government to rule the province?
Would you want a Dublin government when you could have a Litterific government? We're right here, we're ready. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Thank you, Mr. Gallen. I apologize, I was distracted by a man in the back. Yes, Mr. Nairn.
Mr. President, can I take that as confirmation that the coup begins now?
I feel that we may be straying dangerously close to literal treason. So I'm afraid not. But Mr. Nairns, any final point on that piece of business?
Well, I think just to finally conclude, I don't think a full-on Dublin government. I think if we are going back to direct rule, then we do need to look at the Good Friday Agreement and the provisions that are in the Good Friday Agreement. That it shouldn't be entirely British direct rule, that we also need Dublin to have their say in this part of this island.
Thank you, sir. Are we okay?
Yeah, just wondering, folks, the only is no view on this, is that on the agenda?
It's twice too much.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
It's not the Dublin we were buying on.
No, it's really not Mr. Clark.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Shame, Roseanne. I'm not really also, okay, so we'll move on from private members' business. I also realised that I skipped over announcements. Just to briefly speak about the announcements, I believe The Secretary, we should have a workshop scheduled for next week, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, so we have
Tell us that'll be
a workshop.
tomorrow.
Yes, more info will be released on that tomorrow. Of course, our Halloween fancy dress pub crawl is fast approaching. Don't forget about that. That's Monday 30th. More details will again be released on that. Do we need any more teams for any competitions here?
No, we're good.
We're good, okay. Trying to think if there's anything else. Mr. Secretary, can you think of any other?
Come tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Yes, of course. Tomorrow's debate, as you can see from your order paper, is this House of Forced Equal Marriage on NI. Should be quite interesting. We try to have debates each year on a variety of different topics, and we do quite often try to have one on the topic of LGBT plus issues. This is a slight twist on that, as we're hoping to go down a more legal and law and constitutional route. So yes, it should be quite interesting aspect. Other than that, again, I presume, just a quick show of hands, does everybody here have a membership card? Does anyone not? Who doesn't? If you don't have one, raise your hand. Right, you two need to, I saw you shaking your head, do you have one this? Speak to me at the end if you don't.
Calvin,
yes?
what happens if you destroy your membership card?
You don't get a new one.
I haven't, but like,
you get one new one, and then after that we start charging you.
I thought it was you get destroyed.
Your life is intrinsically linked to your time. Okay, I can't think of any more answers, so we'll go on to a short round of President's questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, wow. Yes, Hannah.
Hi. Please can you explain what honorary life member is and how people like get their status?
Yes, certainly. Well, an honorary life member is quite literally what it says on the tin. It is someone who is a member of this society for life and has been granted such status by the society itself. It is technically possible to buy ordinary life memberships, although we don't really sell them because no one would really buy them because they'd have to be like 20 quid or something. But honorary life memberships are conferred upon members who have been deemed by the House to have gone above and beyond their contribution to the society on more than one occasion. I believe is how the Constitution specifies. Am I the only HLM? Am I being very rude? Am I missing anyone? Okay, yeah. So yeah, we have about 30 or so at the moment, and they are conferred at the AGM each year. And yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I was looking at you for some reason. I apologize, yes. Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you mentioned the Secretary of State Northern Ireland a few moments ago. Can you confirm to the House, is there plans to have the Secretary of State visit the House and address the literary?
We are, I planned in as much as...
we're in talks, though.
Yes, we're in talks.
I've heard that one before.
Basically, back in December 2013, yes, December 2013, the 165th session, the then Secretary of State, Teresa Villiers, gave an opening address at our final debate of the Christmas semester. That was this House would have a new NI flag. And all of you are on the Storm trip, so you get to know this bit of inside info. Obviously, it's like Secretary of State, that's a big important government role. You think that's been quite a big deal. Once I got access to the President email account, I looked through the old emails and I saw the emails. No, it was actually just a case of the then President Adam Kidd was like, "Hello, Mr. Chief of Staff for Ms. Villiers. Would it be possible to have her speak at the debate?" Mr. Kidd, yes, that's fine. She'll read it. That was really just that easy. So it would probably be folly to expect it to be that easy again. But I am hopefully planning to see if we can get him to speak at maybe the last one of the next semester. But again, there's a lot of things in the way of that. But maybe we'll see. We're hoping. Mr. Dodd.
So, given that you said...
Stand up!
You really don't let me stand
I will
up.
not accept your question. Thank you, Mr. Dodd.
Okay. So it's a bunch of fresh faces, a lot of first years here today. You're obviously the biggest dinosaur in the room. So I was wondering if you could inform the House that since it's been a long time, what we did the last time we were here at Stormont and why we were here, what transpired, and what the debate was on. I mean,
you say that like it was some big thing that happened.
Probably wasn't, but I'm
like we
curious.
punched Jim Armstrong in the market or something.
This is being recorded.
Shame it's not.
No, I'm correct in saying, so who is, it would be you, Mr. Secretary. I'm correct in saying last time we were here was 167 with when Mary Louise said it was
Yeah.
I actually didn't attend that one.
That's
so entirely sure what the motion was. I will find out before the end of this meeting, and I'll get back to you, Mr. Dolan.
That's very
It should be very easy to figure out. I know that back in the day, Anna Lowe, former Alliance NLA or somewhere, was a trustee. South Belfast. Yes, was a trustee, and she got sent here, and she was at that meeting. So one final piece of questions from Ms. Cameron.
Oh no, it's not the question you want me to ask. It's an actual genuine question.
Yeah, sounds good.
The tradition question. I'm not going to ask it. Okay, so I was in Brussels last week. I haven't said, have I? And yeah, I was just thinking Brussels is genuinely the most beautiful city in the world.
Damn.
So you, Mr. President, what's the most beautiful city in the world to you?
Well, as you may recall, Ms. Campbell, last week I mentioned that I was incredibly uncultured.
I wasn't here.
Yes. Oh, that's right. So yes, I said last week that I was incredibly uncultured, and just you should also know that I said last week that I have many Irish friends, just so you know. But yes, that also extends to the fact that I'm incredibly poorly travelled. So
I'll take you places to more. I get my wrong.
Hardly mind blowing. I'm just to really double down on my previous statement. Back in June, late June, early July, for the first time I had the pleasure of travelling down and visiting Dublin, and it was very beautiful. So I'm going to say Dublin. Can I get a cheer for how beautiful Dublin is? No one can do it better than I. Is it going to be brief, Ms. Bellamont?
Yes.
Really brief. Go.
So this morning you texted all of us.
Stand up.
Oh, sorry. This morning you texted all of us to give us the information of what's going to happen, and I really appreciate the message. But I feel like it would have been more efficient for your time to send an email, because I felt bad that you had to use all this time to send us messages.
I thank you, fellas. I take your point, but I fear that a lot of people these days don't really check their email very regularly.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be more productive and effective to just message people directly. And honestly, it's fine. It didn't take much more time. So yes, so finally, for the business, we shall take our vote on prior opinion. So, the motion today is this House believes Western politics is inherently sexist. If right now you believe that statement to be true, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Keep them up, keep them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you very much. If you believe that statement to be false, please raise your hand and say nay. Yay. Keep them up, keep them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Mr. Secretary. And if you have no opinion on the motion, or you simply do not know, please raise your hand and say meh.
Meh. I want a picture of these mess.
I don't want to speakers.
Thank you, everyone. So I do believe that the abstention So I would now like to invite to open the debate and the case for the proposition in his men's speech, no less, Mr. Morgan Hickman.
Forgive me, I'm just going to move a bit of stuff around because I'm going to knock on the floor otherwise. Here. Okay, so compose yourself. Members of the House, it's the case for the government that this House believes Western politics is inherently sexist. I don't think I need to spend too much time telling you what Western politics is or what sexism is. I would hope that's generally fairly apparent to the House. However, I am going to delve in slightly to what sexism means and how sexism exhibits itself, particularly in the issues surrounding femininity. So, I'll start with a brief description of what a feminine appearance, a historical and generally consensus idea of what a feminine appearance means. And that generally includes, traditionally, long hair, long flowing hair, if you're lucky, clear skin, a narrow waist, and little or no body or facial hair. So I'm just going to, just before I kick into the substantive part of my speech, I just want to identify a couple of leaders from the world. And I've got some wonderful pictures. So, we have the Prime Minister of Poland, the President of Lithuania, we have...
Do they have the...
We have Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany. We have Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK. We have the great Arlene Foster, Chancellor of Northern Ireland. We have Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister for Scotland. And Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State and presidential candidate for the United States of America.
I've got points then.
Not just yet, thank you. Let me finish my point. There are more, far more examples, so I'll give you a couple more, but my printing credits wouldn't quite stretch that far. So I'm just taking my word for it. So we've got Michelle Bartlett, President of Chile, we've got Doris Luthardt, member of the Swiss Federal Council, Simonetta Sommaruga, another member of the Swiss Federal Council. They are heads of state. No, thank you. Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway. And Mary McAleese. Why am I showing you all of these photos of people? And why am I telling you about them? Because they don't fit this ideal of femininity. These are not people who are the petite, the long flowing hair. They're not following the ideal, inverted commas, ideal standard of beauty.
On that point?
Just a second. And I will literally finish this and then I'll take you. They are all wearing a suit. A traditionally masculine dress. No skirts, no dresses. This may seem arbitrary. No, thank you. This may seem arbitrary. However, there is a point here. Femininity has become a dirty idea in politics. Women who are elected to high office don't follow it, don't exhibit it, and it's not fair. Why is the femininity campaign? Actually, okay, yeah, I'll take it now.
So, you are saying right now that because this women doesn't fit with the ideal of feminism, they're fighting against sexism in some way, or they're not? Please make it clear.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be more than happy to. These people are not fitting within the ideas of femininity, of a feminine woman, and this is a problem. This is a problem because femininity has become dirty. Femininity, we talk about being a man. Man up, grow a pair of testicles. That's what we're talking about. And then on the flip side, you've got run like a girl, scream like a girl. It's never kick the shit out of someone like a girl.
Fine.
We have embedded weakness into femininity, and this is where our problems start. No, not yet. We still, to this extent, view women, particularly as feminine women, as weaker, inferior, and most importantly, incapable of leadership. This is the view we have, evidenced by the wealth of leaders that don't exhibit these characteristics. This does also affect feminine men as well. However, that's a different topic for a different event. Until we shift this perspective, we're going to continue to perpetuate this hideous and totally sexist view of politicians. Let me just shift my views slightly. So far I've told you that there is a problem with femininity. I want to now draw that into sexism. So women, generally, are not going to conform to one particular ideal. They're not going to form one stereotype that's going to apply to everyone.
On that point?
Please, yes.
The men don't do the same? Only women?
No. Men are completely in the same boat. However, men aren't required to fit a particular stereotype in the sense of women requiring to act like men.
On that point?
No, I'm still... Yes. Women are being required to act like men. I have no issue with there being certain character traits we want to see in our leaders. That's fine. That's how leadership works. But it can't be that it has to be like a man. It doesn't make sense for us to turn around and say, these women, wonderful, we love them, they're great leaders. Why? Because they act, dress, talk like men. That's not an appropriate way to determine someone that is a good leader. These characteristics they have are all valuable characteristics, but they're masculine traits. Historically, traditionally, masculine traits.
On the point.
Sure, go for it.
I mean, in a world where we aren't, in a non-sexist world, where it doesn't matter what you wear, you wouldn't code clothes as masculine or feminine. I'm a girl who wears suits all the times, And I don't get like treated, oh, like you're masculine. I'm very feminine in a suit. And I actually get like, you know, called out for it. People just like, oh, look at you, you're lesbian, wear a suit.
Okay, sorry, let me just... I think... This isn't speaking out loud, but I think you may have slightly missed what I'm saying. I'm not saying that women can't wear suits. What I'm saying is that women wearing suits are elected to high office. Wearing suits is just a general idea for this whole concept of continuing these masculine traits generally. For them to be elected into high office, they are exhibiting these traits. Whether you're wearing a suit or not, I'm still answering a point. Let me just get myself straight. Okay, so we in this room, we have to agree that women are just as capable to rule and lead as men. And this stigma about feminine dress, we need the role models here. We need to see women of all backgrounds, of all diversities, not just speaking of the issues surrounding femininity across all sorts of things. But if you have one group specifically, you are never going to be able to see the breadth of the Happy to propose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hickman, and can he please get another round of applause for his maiden speech? And now I'd like to invite the first speaker from the opposition, our internal convener, Mr. Matthew Braxton. I looked at him staring at me, Mr. Hickman, and it's terrifying.
At least it's not Ireland.
She stares on the floor.
It's one of those that actually looks at everyone in the end.
We should probably pick that up. It's scary. Please.
Sorry, I'm taking quite a long time. So, I'm going to start off with a bit of rebuttal. So the first prompt gave us a few examples about how femininity in the politics and general society is bad. And use some phrase, grow some balls, run like a girl. Well, we believe on the opposition this is society's impacts on politics. This is all to do with how society sees females. It has nothing to do with politics. No laws require short hair or a suit in Parliament, and the proposition is completely confused society's sexism with politics. And this is our main argument, that society and politics are two connected but completely separate things. So, we on the opposition don't think sexism doesn't exist. We acknowledge that our society has many problems when it comes to sexism. But we in the opposition believe that society is sexist, not politics. An example of this is if bullying was made illegal. It would still happen, because it is one of these crimes where you cannot know every single example and police every single time it's happened. No thank you. So in this example, politics is banned and takes an absolute stance, while in society, the impact of politics is up for people's individual interpretations. So to say politics is inherently sexist, we believe is completely incorrect. Because there must have... There have been times where politics has been sexist and favoured males, but we believe that this is a reflection of society's beliefs onto politics rather than politics' effect on society. No, thank you. We firmly believe that any sexism in politics that has been or ever has been or is still there is a reflection of society at its time. Politics has only represented society's views of women or pushed them forward. It was politics that gave women rights. It was politics that gave women the vote, and in most countries ensures their right to equal pay. No, thank you. In summary, we believe politics is sexist, but we believe people are. On a second point, we'd actually like to tell you what politics actually is. So, putting it very simply, we believe that politics is who is running the country and what is governing the country. First we talk about, no thank you, who runs the country and whether this is inherently sexist. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that many women don't run for office. But again, we believe this is due to gender stereotypes, the fact that women are still discouraged from certain topics and subjects in schools, such as politics. But we again believe that this is society's impact on politics, not society's impact on women, not politics. I'll take it.
How can you say that society and politics are separate because people from society go into politics and then those politics are impacted on society? It's like a cycle.
Yeah, it's like a cycle, and that's precisely where we believe it's not inherent to politics. We believe it might be inherent to society, but not politics. Politics is simply a reflection of society's beliefs. Politics is the laws that govern the country, and the people that govern the country, not society. Society is the one that tells women that they shouldn't take politics as a subject of school. There's no laws, there's no politicians that simply say, no, that can't happen. It's society that tells you that can't happen. So if we want to see if politics discriminates against women, we must look at the women currently in politics and the women who run for office. So to check this, we will use the UK as a case study. So in the 2017 general election, 30% of people who ran were women, 32% of people who won were women, 38% of the cabinet is women, one of which, of course, is the British Prime Minister. So out of the women in politics that we can actually state got into politics and stayed in politics, the rate of women winning seats in Parliament and the women in the cabinet are fairly represented for the people who actually are in politics. Talking about leaders of party, in Britain, 4 out of the 7 major parties, of the leaders of major parties are women. In Scotland, all 3 of the major parties' leaders are women. In Northern Ireland, the 2 biggest parties' leaders are women. On a wider scale, out of the 18 countries in the West, we're talking about Western politics, so of the 18 countries in the West, 12 have had or do currently have female leaders. So women can and do make it to the top of politics. So for the idea that women are completely discriminated against inherently in politics and cannot make it to the top and cannot achieve in politics, we believe is completely untrue. The other part of politics is what governs the country. So this is somewhere. Here we go. So in all but one country in the West, that's Spain, equal pay is required. Now, this is a problem in many countries, but this again is an example of the difference between society and politics. It is illegal to give someone different wages for the exact same time, the exact same job, but yet it still does happen. This is again the difference between politics and society. I'll say it again, because politics takes an absolute stance on it, while society takes its own individual interpretation of it and breaks politics rules. In most countries, again, abortion is allowed, and hiring and firing based on sex is illegal. So in the law, we have no sexist, inherently sexist laws in the vast majority of these countries, other than Spain, basically. And that is my argument. So thank you very much for the opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryson. Now to continue and close the case for the opposition, it's our external convener, Mr. Hugh Dallin.
Alright, now, I'm going to begin by clarifying some of the things that were said by the first speaker for the proposition, the lovely Mr. Morgan Hickman. And I use the word lovely for a reason, because it's representative of one of the things that inhibits women's role in Western politics. It's little things like that. That this is how a woman would be introduced. I would say the lovely, or the elegant, or the talented. If this were a man I was introducing, I would say the esteemed, the professional. Those are the kinds of things I'd be saying. These are tiny little instances that exist in our society which prove how even today that is inherently sexist towards women. Now, this is only the start of the problem. And this is the problem that has been addressed by Morgan. And I will be extending this case. The idea that the women who are in politics today exist there partially because society is more accepting of masculine standards. We're not willing to embrace and accept and celebrate true femininity in those who run for office, and Western politics is inherently sexist as a result.
On that point?
No. The first substantive argument I will make is that sexism in Western politics today is incredibly subtle. It is not a great monster or a beast that we see approaching us every day. Instead, it is the seed of a creeper and a bramble that was planted thousands of years ago. No, and since then, in subtle way, has grown into the cracks of every crevice of our society. Yeah. Alright, we have to think about it. And Mr. Bryson brought up the point that politics is about our institutions rather than our society. This is a point I'll later refute, but even then there are problems. We have to think about the institutions that we have in politics and ask ourselves, can we truly say these aren't sexist? For that we have to look to the foundations of our society and our politics. And we have to realise that upon their foundation, they were not tolerable towards women at all, and the remnants of this still exist today. Initially, women were not allowed to vote. Their role was in the home. Remnants in constitutions all across the world today, in Europe or elsewhere, have this role enshrined. I find it ludicrous, the opposition's insistence that we have abandoned the sexism in our politics today, whenever in the very basis of our society, it is in writing that their rule is lesser. No.
On that point?
No. And the point that he made about the illegality of sexism, and how if we made bullying illegal, that it would still happen. If we made sexism illegal, it would still happen. And I question this, because it's completely ignorant in the many ways in legislation and in social convention that women are at a disadvantage. We can see that women are still less represented in politics today than they are by men, and this means issues are still ignored. This comes to issues such as luxury taxes on feminine products, ongoing battles for things like pro-choice movements, which are very often ignored by male leaders. We have to realise that the way the institutions are built, in many subtle ways and in many more obvious ways, they are built against women. We can look no further than Northern Ireland in itself, a country which, to be generous, is backwards. We think to our own favourite Let us think of our own favourite MP, the DUP's Sammy Wilson. On record saying that women who breastfeed in public places are exhibitionists. These remarks coming... No. These remarks coming several weeks before Sammy Wilson was found hiking in the nude.
Show us a photo.
It's there, you can find it. Now, this is the main issue. The main issue is that the sexism lies in the woodwork. It's not obvious, but it's always there. And we can put up notions of token leaders and representation that's put up by Matthew Bryson, but it ignores the much deeper problems. Alright, and we can look no further than where we are right now, at the Literary and Scientific Society and everywhere else. This is supposed to be a platform for sharing ideas. It's that of expression. It's that of coming out in a political sphere. We, as Calvin Black will now be blushing at, have our problems with representation. This is not something that I think is our fault. It's the fault of Western society and politics, because these are ideas that are discouraged. Women do not put themselves up in the same numbers for political positions. They do not put themselves up for the same positions in public service, in the judiciary. Yes.
Finally. Why do you say that the fault is because of the Western politics and the society? Can you explain that to me more?
Because I will remind you that the motion today is this House believes that Western politics is inherently sexist. Now, I might have got something in my ear, Mr. Bryson. Remind me what Western politics is. Because as Morgan clearly explained, that we would all have the common understanding that that is democracy. And democracy at its core is representation. When our society and our politics is based upon the representation of the people, how are we supposed to dissociate that from the society that brings it forth? Politics will always reflect the society it exists in the West. When we are electing regressive and right-wing leaders, hate crime, sexism, racism is on the rise, and likewise vice versa. And we can clearly see that in the world today, it is based upon our representation and the people that we elect that our society becomes this way. The world we live in is one that is inherently sexist.
It is one where our media, our marketing, our products and capitalism encourage these roles for women. It is one where, as Morgan said, it is the masculation of feminine traits that makes women acceptable in politics, in the judiciary and in public roles. It is this way that society and politics cannot be separated. Society is inherently sexist. Politics are inherently sexist. And we must propose this motion today. Thank you.
I don't know.
Mr. Dunn, can you please get an appointment set for me to get my hearing checked? Because I got deaf on my right ear. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that tremendous speech. I would now like to welcome, closing the debate, and for the opposition, also in her maiden speech, yes, it's Miss Inmel Purdy Cortes.
I'm not going to wear the suit today. I don't feel in the mood.
Okay, first of all, I would like to do a rebuttal about all the things that my colleagues or my lovely colleagues have said this Sunday day. And still, well, I'm going to start for the Prime Minister, because I saw that all this problem that they were trying to bring to the table, it was all superficial. All superficial. In the first place, they didn't want to spend some time to describe anything of the things that were in the motion, and that's something that has to be done, as my lovely Matthew did. So, me as a professional immigrant, I will try to I will try to explain why these men were wrong. The first place, the feminism. The women today, that they're ruling countries, they don't fit the idea of feminism. And what? That's superficial. And all of your speeches, well, were all superficial, because a suit, or your hair, or your makeup, or however you are dressed, that's not something important, that's only superficial. That's why, wait a second, that's why we're talking about the society, that it's connected to the politics, but still, they're not the same, as Matthew say, and they are connected, but they're not the same. On that point, yeah?
We say superficial, and it doesn't impact on how people are perceived in politics. I was in this very building as a leader of an organisation, and I had a man stand beside me in a suit, and I automatically referred to the man instead of me, because they perceived him to be the leader of the organisation, and not me. And it was very interesting.
I got you, Tara, but do you think that's a political problem or a society problem?
Figure.
No, sorry. Okay, it's a society problem. Why it's a society problem? Because women are being required to act as men, and that's not something that politics do. That's something that the society do. That's why society and politics are connected, but they're not the same. I'm going to continue, because I will explain our main points for you to understand the things that we're saying because we're saying this. Okay, politics work to impulse a debate, like we are doing it right now. And all the conflicts in the society are being argued, and they are putting them on the table. And the politics, they're the only weapon that we have to fight against that sexism in the society. That's why it isn't inherently sexist, the society is, and the politics are trying to do that. In the case that they don't work, still, we can discuss about them, like we're doing it right now. And still, fortunately, not everyone's agreed with this sexist society. That's why we have the rule, the rule that we have, the fight for the rally thing about the abortion. Yeah, you got me. Because not everyone is sexist. Not everyone in this society agrees with the sexism. That's how the politics don't do their jobs. They must watch for the society and for the voters. So the thing is, I'm going to talk about the beautiful argument that I have with you lately. Okay, society. He said that society is accepting the sexism. That's not true. As you told me, the rally is something. The rally that we had a few days ago. That's something because it's so tough that society doesn't agree with the politics. But, like I said, the politics is the only weapon that we have to fight against that sexism. Still, like,
you say that if something was illegal in society, if something was illegal in politics, it will still happen in society. And that's not true. Because if it's illegal, we have still that weapon that we have to find for fighting against sexism. And that thing about the best breastfeeding, I mean, here, that's an individual problem of that man. That man was sexist. That doesn't mean that their politics have to be sexist. That's why we say they're connected, but they're not the same. And I will say again, sexism is a problem that affects our society, and it's something that everybody can agree in here. In case you don't, I can accept a boyfriend information. No? Okay.
If these views are prevalent and they exist in high public office, then surely that's a problem that is systemic within the political system, not just society as large.
No, because that's a superficial problem. We're talking about the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not politics. The root of the problem is the sexism. It's the sexism, and that doesn't have to be involved with the politics. That's all the examples that Matthew said about Spain, about UK, about all these countries that were trying to put laws against the sexism that we have in our society, and that's the only way that we have to do it. That's the only way. And if still a political system doesn't work, we can still have a society that doesn't agree with politics for doing the jobs they have to do against fighting sexism. So this house doesn't believe that Western politics are inherently sexist. It's a society that is inherently sexist, and the politics are there for just figuring out how we can fight this problem.
Thank you very much, and another round of applause for her maiden speech. So, are you coming on to this? Very good. Good to see you. So, we shall now move on to questions from the floor. I'm thinking that we'll do this no later than past, so that we hopefully will get a chance to have a bit of a wander around. So, I'll take the first question, the proposition. That's these fine gents. Let's spell this.
So my question for the proposition is, because, so you sort of described gender as a binary, so you sort of described as men as strong and women as weak, which is not true. So my question is, do you believe strength and glory and these traits that we typically ascribe to men do you believe that these traits are masculine, or do you think that women can still have those traits and can still be feminine? Because some of the most feminine women I know are strong.
I think you summed up very well our arguments. That we believe that there are these traits that are historically and traditionally ascribed to the genders. Looking with a historical lens, it's very hard to blur lines and consider the spectrum that we now speak of in and we now engage with. Historically, obviously, that wasn't there, and it's very hard to take a historical perspective on that. Going forward, yes, women can have these characteristics. Being strong, being powerful, being absolutely all of those things. I believe that they are, rather than being masculine or feminine characteristics, they are the characteristics of a leader. However, it's when other masculine, typically, historically, again, all the above, character traits are also being required or also being desirable, particularly in a democratic system where you are then being selected for representation. That's where I think the issue with masculine traits then comes in.
Okay. Thank you. Would anybody from the opposition like to respond?
Well, obviously I agree with you. These traits are sexist and superficial. And the thing is that the root is in the society and the political system.
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions from the opposition? I shall go with Mrs. Gavin.
You mentioned that sexism is society's problem, not politics. If someone like Donald Trump, the leader of the Western world, can get elected after making the most horrendously sexist comments I've ever heard while campaigning to become president, doesn't that make sexism surely politics' problem?
Well, I suppose sexism is politics' problem, but that's what politics is there to do. It's there to combat sexism, and Donald Trump was a complete one-off, right? He is. We've never seen a man like Donald Trump get elected in this day and age, and it's the fact that he was running against a candidate who, for half the campaign, just didn't campaign. So it's the fact that he was running against the least liked candidate of all time. He's a complete one-off. So the fact that Donald Trump got elected is a one-off, and it's not representative for the 18 countries that have Western politics.
Also, can I just point something?
No, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Bryson, for the proposition. Would anybody like to respond? You don't have to, but you can. Yeah, you can. Sure. Mr. Dunham?
Well, the point is that it's indicative of the problems that exist. I'm not saying that powerful women can't exist in politics, that they don't, or that they don't have a role at all, or that representative democracy isn't the way forward for women's politics. But the thing is that the way the institutions are designed, and the way the broader societal context around them is, that we can clearly see that it is pinned against women's rights, women's issues, and their representation on many, many fronts. And that's why I believe that at its core, and I explained their roots, that Western politics are inherently sexist in that respect.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbin. Does anybody have an abstaining point on the motion? Mr. McKenna.
Yes. This is probably a new can of worms, but neither of the sides have talked about this. But assuming that sexism is where the gender of an individual comes into consideration when a decision is made, how do both of you feel about the fact that in many Western countries, and to name a few, Germany, Austria, Australia, France, the United Kingdom, the Republic of Ireland, in many other countries, in order to get on the party list, there is a gender quota, and therefore, regardless of the abilities of individuals, gender has to be taken into account when candidates are being selected for democratic representation. How can you say that society isn't sexist or is sexist in politics when you have to take that into account?
Thank you, Mr. McCann. An interesting question. I will give it to the proposition to respond to first.
The fact that gender quotas are necessitated within any political party shows the reasons that I've said. That there is a dissuasion publicly and widely against women running for public office, and the fact that this is something we need to incentivise rather than this being something that people queue up for in equal numbers is indicative of the wider sexist problems that exist in how democracies are run in the West.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Anybody from the opposition like to respond?
Actually, I agree with you. And I think that those kind of quotes, how do you call them in English? Quotas? Quotas. Okay. Quotas. Yeah, that's how we say it. Like, they're actually trying to put a solution to a problem that is the unequal thing between men and women. And that's something that comes within the society. And that's a political measure, a political law that they're doing to like improve and to put women at the same position as men and to fight that sexism. Because if you put our sexes, okay, that was sound weird. If you put our sexes in a balance, like women are like this, and it's a positive discrimination, so they can just like. So I hope those quotas don't exist anymore in the future, but still we have to find the equality first, and then probably they'll come.
Can I make a shameless plug, Calvin?
Yes. Shameless plug?
Yeah. We're having a positive discrimination debate. You should all go to that.
Yes.
Woo.
Woo. Thank you, Ms. Brody. I appreciate the sound effects. I'll ask you a question for the proposition. These two gents again. We just did that. Mr. Dominic, is that the proposition? Yeah. Go ahead.
Mr. Hickman,
we do not speak his name.
Morgan. You showed a lot of images of Western leaders that were women and some that had lost the election despite getting 3 million more votes. However, all of them, as far as I could tell, were white women. So, Is racism a bigger problem in Western politics than sexism? Every image you showed was what?
I'll give a quick explanation as to why I picked those images. There were others. As I say, I just didn't have any money. But I picked those because it was the EU leaders, it was the UK leaders, and I kind of figured America was going to come up at some point. So I thought there are actually there is a wealth of PME and other ethnicities in countries, particularly in the Pacific. I believe a lot of the Pacific island nations, they will have a variety. However, I do agree that we do have a problem with racism generally and also in politics, though I think it would probably be slightly outside my remit in this debate to go on too much longer. But yes, I completely agree, more or less.
Thank you, Mr. Completely agree, more or less. It took a second to hit me. Would the opposition care respond? You don't have to, but you can. No?
Well, I agree.
Okay, questions for the opposition now. Just balance.
My question is, what is your definition of politics? Because if your definition of politics is like the system in which we work out issues, or is it like the system of which like we put laws and regulations in place? Because those are two different sides of politics.
So, for me, the definition of politics is the laws and institutions that govern the country. So when we were looking at my speech, I talked about who was it, and I was talking about the discrimination within politics, but politics itself is what the politics is. For example, this country, the United Kingdom, it's a bit controversial. The politics of the United Kingdom would be the NHS, would be the laws that run the United Kingdom, the laws, the institutions, and we believe that this is very important for this debate, because without these institutions and these laws, with say politics had never existed, then men would still be on top. It is politics that gave women the vote. It is politics, it's these laws that give women equal pay, the votes and their rights, which wouldn't have happened had politics never existed. So that's the difference between politics and society.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryson. Would the proposition care to say?
Yes.
Mr. Dolan?
So, what Mr. Bryson has tried to do here is to separate politics from policy, which is a foolish thing to do. And in his assessment, I will ask him, when we live in a country where we are still governed partially by laws, drafted by lawmakers at a time when women could not own property, is that not inherently sexist? When in places such as the civil service, where when people apply for jobs rather than be elected, and there is still much lower gender representation than would be desirable, is that not inherently sexist? What we've seen is that in every facet of the institutions that exist, is that it is pitted against women, and that it is sexist in that regard. And what the opposition have tried to do is deflect responsibility by perverting the definition of what politics is. And it is only through avoiding the hard questions regarding what surrounds politics and where it comes from that they've been able to reach their conclusions.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. And I abstain. Point of the motion, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we actually look at the motion...
Mr. O'Neill, social officer, sorry. I realised I called everybody else. So.
I don't deserve title. Okay.
Round of applause, Mr. O'Neill.
If we do look at the motion, it says this House believes Western politics is inherently sexist. But I think something that's actually been missed from the debate is the idea that men are sexist to women and that women are sexist to men. If we actually look at politics now, the new thing in Europe is it's sexy to have a female leader. It's actually... if you look at who's being... if there's actually many examples of men being discriminated against for leadership positions because of that gender imbalance. And so just like positive discrimination, which in ways seems like a good thing, it does discriminate. And so in fact in politics it's men discriminating against their fellow men and women discriminating against their fellow women. So I think as an abstaining point, the lines are blurred. It's not black and white, men against women or women against men.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. The opposition shall have to respond first this time. If you would care to do so.
Yeah.
Yes. Roddy?
Okay. And okay, from the first thing that you say is just like the sexism isn't is something not only from genders, like for women, also for men, isn't it? Like the first thing you say, I'm just trying to. Okay, so actually, the sexism is the difference between men and women, but those differences have been taken in a bad way. For example, you talking about a president as sexy, that's sexism. But if I do, that's not sexism. And why? Why? Because we still have to believe that the women have to be like all the superficial things that my colleagues said. So the thing is just like, if we're going into the root, if we're going into the society, that's something that we have to work on it. And the positive discrimination, it's trying in some way that could be sexy, but in reality it's not. It's trying to just impulse an equal equality between men and women. And that's the thing that they are trying to do. That's the thing that the politicals are trying to do. And it could be wrong from your point of view, but still, like, I think that we as women, I mean, I'm the only one on the table. I hate to talk about this. I hate to say I'm the only one on the table, but still, I would love to do debate with more women. And it's something that it's all about men, and it's all about you with power, and that's something that I totally disagree. So if with the literary we could have like a positive discrimination policy for having more women vegan, I will be totally in.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Would anybody from the proposition care to respond?
Okay.
Mr. Donovan.
I always have an opinion to give. Yeah. So, the main issue in this debate is not strictly about a balance of gender. While that's a large part of it, it's mostly about a balance of power. It is foolish to assume that sexism can only come from men, and it's intrinsic to this debate that we recognise that that is not the case. Instead, we recognise that the issues of politics and governance come from a place where women were in a weaker position of power, and that the society surrounding where our politics comes from today also enforces that. It's not about solely whether there are more men or there are more women. It's about whether the way that our politics exists today and where our society exists today is fully accepting or not fully accepting of women holding a totally equal position to men in public office and the public sphere that does not discriminate against them in any way, which is clearly not the case.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Are there any more questions for the proposition? Ms. Campbell.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure if this has been brought up, because I was trying to do an application for a few minutes, so I wasn't really listening. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So if this has been brought up, I apologise. But we have talked a lot about, how there's been women leaders, we were showing pictures of them. But have we really talked about the culture shift that's actually happened? The fact that we actually have women leaders at all? Like, isn't that great? It's not something to be celebrated? The fact that we have women leaders at all?
Thank you for your questions, Campbell.
Yes, absolutely. It is a thing to be celebrated, but it's not enough. We can't stop here. If we were to turn around and say, let's rewind slightly. Let's go back and say, we've got our first world leader as a woman. Wonderful. That's amazing. Look at the progress we've made. Look how hard we've worked. All right then, lads, let's go. All right. No, we have to keep pushing. We can't settle. But yes, there are 27 world leaders today that are incumbent women in the role. 27. How many countries in the world are there? A lot more than 27, guys.
There's only 27 that matter. There's the EU 27.
I have said my piece.
Thank you, Mr. Hickman. Would anybody from the opposition care to respond? Mr. Britt.
So yeah, we think this is great, and I think this demonstrates our point about society and laws, because no laws actually changed. No laws said, oh well, we're going to positively discriminate for women leaders. No, this was a society. Well, you talked about policy and said, actually I'm going to respond to that. You talked about policy and then said that we haven't mentioned policy and that we're still sexist because society doesn't, or politics doesn't see people, men and women, as equal, yet you get no policies. To the contrary, there's no policies that you can name, there's no laws you can name that actually name.
What? Sorry, no,
there's no laws, there's no policies that actually say no, women and men are not equal. That's the politics of this country. The laws of this country do put men and women equal under the eyes of the law. That's the politics. So the cultural shift, anyway, back to your point, is society changing because of the laws of the country, because the laws and politics of the country has seen men and women as equal, and that's society slowly changing, and that's the difference between society and politics once again.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson. Mr. Secretary, I think you'd agree with me that there are some former members who are here today who would be very happy to know that this House still uses the phrase cultural shift. Because of where everyone's headed, nevertheless. Questions to the opposition? Are there any more questions to the opposition? Let's go.
You mentioned that politics isn't inherently sexist because politics gave women the vote. Was it not more of a case of women going out and campaigning and fighting for the vote?
Sorry, let's do it.
Okay. Mr.
Well, that's women using politics. Politics is not like it's something that men have a monopoly over and always. Okay, I put that wrong, but essentially that's women using politics. That's political change. That's women using politics to change the laws. There's nothing inherently sexist about politics because politics is constantly changing, it's constantly moving forward. That shows that there isn't an inherent sexism with politics because women have used it to change it to make their lives better.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson. I believe you just triggered Mr. Dublin. I'd like to respond, Mr. Dublin.
Oh, Mr. Bryson. How thou hast placed thine own foot in thy mouth. Because in the explanation of your point, you vilify that women fighting for the vote is using politics. Now, if I am to remember correctly, much of your speech hinged around the idea that what happens in wider society is not politics. We have it from the Bryson's mouth that the entire status of his speech is contradictory to itself. And I need say no more than that.
Thank you. Fire! That suddenly woke everybody up. One final point of stake in the motion. Oh, he already said one, you already said one. Is yours one from online?
No.
No.
Because we're not streaming it.
Good sir, you may have the final question.
For the proposition primarily, will politics always be inherently sexist?
That's a good one.
Hold on. Yeah, I got it.
Mr. Donovan.
So this is insane itself. Whatever. Short answer is no. But the longer answer is that this motion is about this House believes that Western politics are inherently sexist. The motion does not close off the possibility for change, but as I explored in my speech, when we look at the foundations of Western politics, where they are today, and the society that surrounds them up to the present, we can see in how many ways they are inherently sexist. So while I can confidently say that while I am not sure things will change, that they can change, but saying that they can change does not invalidate the case we have made so far for the state of how Western politics is today and where it's come from.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. And Ms. Pearl, please.
Okay, as we heard from my lovely colleague, David, he say no. No, they will never be inherently sexist because they will evolve. They will evolve because of the society. They will, wait a second. They will because personally not everyone agrees with the sexist society that we have today. And also that going with your point too. The thing that we have is a freedom of speech, and that's something that we're doing right now. So the thing is that if someone doesn't agree with the politics that they're doing in their own country, they can speak to make them change. And that's why the Western politics are not inherently sexist. It's a society, and still, if there's people in that society that doesn't agree with that sexist movement, let's say, they can always speak and they can always behave against the let's say the wrong things that the politicians are doing. But that doesn't mean that the Western politics are inherently sexist, as my colleague, my lovely colleague, you told me or told us.
Thank you, Mr. Brody. We do have the sermon for another 35 minutes, and I can't guarantee that we'll get a tour or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of hands shot up there for abstaining points. So, if anybody would still like to ask an abstaining point, can I see your hand again? Mr. O'Neill, go ahead.
My apologies, I besieged the President. I think just one quick point as an abstaining point. Where do we see politics and society? I mean, if we look at like Irish politics, for example, in the last 50 years was dominated by the Catholic Church, who actually don't allow women to take part really with regard to church activities. And so if these people are influencing politics in such ways, where does the idea of politics and society stand?
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Who responded first last time? Was it proposition?
Proposition or opposition first?
I don't know, you responded last, so I'm going to go first. So yes, opposition, if you'd like to respond first to that.
Okay. Well, the thing is that the things that what we were talking about is just wait, I have it here. Like society and politics are connected, but they're not the same. And why? Why do I say that? Because our society here in Northern Ireland could be different than the society in my country, in Spain. So the thing is that the politics are also like involving with that society as well. The thing is that one thing in common with most societies is the sexism in one way or another. For example, here in Northern Ireland we have a thing because of the right for abortion and stuff. That thing we just discussed that like 10 years ago. But the thing is that the society isn't inherently sexist, but there are people who have to fight, and there are people who still can't have sex before like they can have the freedom to just say we don't agree with that. And the politics is just something about who is a politic and what does a politician do. So if we're talking about who that politician is, our friends gave us a lot of examples about female women that are just like crossing the bridge and getting the power for being elected. And still, if we're talking about what is politics, about the policy, we still have, as Matthew said, a lot of laws that are trying to make women and men equal. So that's the thing about the society and politics. If something goes wrong within both of them, one can take charge of the other. So that's the thing that we think about.
Thank you, Mr. Brody. And Mr. Bell, is it?
Okay. So, as Mr. Bryson defined it, he said that he believed that the definition of politics was laws and the governing bodies of a nation. We cannot separate that from the wider participating society and their role in politics, and we can see that across Europe. For example, constitutional change in Ireland is required to have a referendum. Would you argue that the referendum and campaigns for same-sex marriage in Ireland is not politics? Because it requires the engagement of society rather than politicians strictly? I don't think we can. And you asked me earlier to list if there are policies that actively work against women. Yes, there are. There is, as I said, there's luxury taxes that exist in feminine products, which is against women. There is, for example, we know that the Labour Party and to a lesser extent the Conservative Party have gender quotas in policies in place for who they're fielding for candidates. That's their policy, it's relative to their politics, and clearly shows how gender has to play a role in that and how it is sexist. The point is that we need the wider engagement of society and what society believes, how it wants to be represented, and how it represents itself that is intrinsic to politics. And the case I've made, as well as the case that Morgan has made, has proved that that is inherently sexist in the Western world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dobbin. Round of applause for the end of questions there. No. So, time is now about 6:30, so we shall move to a vote. Once again, as you're probably all well aware by now, this is a vote on speakerability. So it's not on whether you've been personally convinced, it's upon which side you think spoke best. So, if you believe that the proposition these two fellows here spoke best this afternoon, please raise your hand and say aye. Keep them up.
Sorry.
And if you believe that the opposition spoke better this afternoon, please raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
Thank you, guys.
And if you believe that both sides spoke equally well, equally terribly, or you wish to express no opinion whatsoever, please raise your hand and say it loud, say it proud, say meh.
Meh.
Oh, man.
Amen.
7. No.
I was in the speak.
Okay, so I'll take one off front. That's 12 on probably. And 8 there for abstaining. It's highly unconventional there.
I'm very sorry.
Let's come back. So, Mr. Secretary, could you please read back the motion?
Mr. President, the vote reads as follows. 12 votes the proposition, 4 the opposition, and 8 abstentions.
So the proposition have it! Thank you very much to everyone for attending the meeting. If you'd all like to stay here, get some photographs, maybe photo and whatnot, I will venture out to see if we can get the tour.
Just people in the chamber.
Yeah. Also, just briefly before you all break off, I'd like to give special thanks to Mr. Ryan Hill and Mr. Kieran Campbell. They were the ones who basically got us in here. So just a brief round of applause for them. Otherwise, the time is now 3:30. I do hereby declare this meeting adjourned. Oh, yes! Yes, I was